In my country, the Communist Party is often attacked and lambasted by the sort of left-wing radical progressive party for social conservatism because they refuse to get in line with modern progressive issues such as LGBTQ2IA rights or whatever combination of letters and numbers we have in this current year, and other issues such as the trans debate or race issues or whatever else. They refuse to deal with them, the Communist Party. They instead prefer to deal with the sort of orthodox Marxist class struggle. This has led me to a position where I have to, as the title probably says, reminisce about the old left. I made a meme a couple days ago, and I still have it. I had this idea for a meme, and then I went on to create it, although I haven't distributed it much widely, only in my own sort of circles and groups with friends. And that meme was only 90s kids will remember. And then right below I put the left talking about workers' rights. And I wanted to post it on my personal Instagram and on a couple other accounts, but I just didn't have the time or the energy to debate with random people I know who are very ultra progressive in my life. I think the left is losing the ball. And a friend of mine made a very ingenious comment in the sense that because the working class is very complacent within the system and they generally don't want to replace the system, they don't want to fight against capitalism, even if they do have gripes regarding the monetary value of their work or the hours they work or unemployment or other such issues. The working class in and of itself is not anti-capitalist and is in fact very socially conservative personally. They're not very hip and cool about the progressive issues. So a lot of the old communist parties either had to reform into more moderate, quote unquote, progressive parties, more moderate sort of radical progressive parties of the hard left, or they had to, or they stuck their course but lost votes, possibly. In this country, it remains a relatively stable force in the sense that it has a sort of a stable fan base, support of about 5%, give or take. Now, the thing about this, the important issue I think to stress here is that I miss the time when the left would speak about workers' rights. And, somebody could come up to me and point to these progressive parties in the West and them speaking about workers' rights every once in a while in some article or some speech. I don't concern myself with that because those parties back in the day, they used to speak all the time about workers' rights. They brought in workers' rights. They brought in welfare states. They brought in these innovations in the political world, these sorts of systems rather, and they expanded on them wherever they already existed due to social liberalism or some other non-socialist and non-communist force. And my big gripe with this is that some neoliberal in any country will just push forward some issue of gay rights or LGBTQ representation. They'll put up a little rainbow flag on the Twitter account of their company or some shit to appear progressive, to do all the progressive talking points. And they'll use some statement, we support the LGBTQ people and we celebrate Pride Month with them and whatever else. And suddenly everybody's just gonna take it hook, line, and sinker. This company will be getting a lot of money. People will be praising them for their stance and their brave stance. And nobody's going to be caring about these companies being multinationals that actually exploit a lot of people and that don't treat their workers very well. That actually open the borders and they treat the immigrants they bring in as slave labor. They want these immigrants as slave labor. And instead what they'll do is they'll attack the people who rail against the LGBTQ flag or whatever else as anti-progressive, the people who talk about how these companies hire slave labor from third world countries, by bringing them through the border and paving their path for citizenship, they'll be attacked as racist and white nationalist and white supremacist and whatever else, whatever have you. And suddenly you've got this environment where the left is supporting the corporations, where the left is right on the same side as the neoliberal corporations. And the people who used to fight against them are shadows of their former selves. The communists in this country and some other countries refuse to bend the knee. They will fight the corporations, they will fight capitalism as a system, they'll fight it as a whole. And for as long as the Soviet Union existed, the capitalists were shitting their pants. Because they could have had a fucking proletarian revolution on their hands. So they were happy to see the expansion of welfare, they were happy to increase pay for workers, they were happy to get on board with a lot of very left-wing social liberal and social democratic measures. I miss that. It's the only thing I miss. Well, I never saw it while I was alive, because I'm a Gen Z kid. I'm not of the 90s. But despite that, I've reached my 20s, and I'm seeing all around me people completely disregarding the workers' issue. When I grew up with people whose parents were garbage collectors, whose parents were truckers, whose parents were cab drivers, I didn't grow up with people who were rich. I didn't grow up in some gated community downtown, right? These people were socially conservative, their parents were socially conservative, but they were economically leftist. And with the left moving away from economics and into socially progressive issues, these voters are fleeing to the right. They're fleeing to nationalist right-wing parties, or wherever such a party exists, they will go again to the sort of old left communist vanguard movements of the sort of Marxist-Leninist interpretation, the orthodox Marxists, in a way. Yes. So, my issue here is we're seeing the destruction of the old left. And because the old left is no longer around, I have no reason to stick to the left. But I do miss the left, because the left used to do good things. I haven't abandoned my class. My class were these people I grew up with in school. That's my class. That's the working class and the lower middle class. That's who I grew up with. That's who I belong to. When I was very, very young, when I was a kid, until I was about 6, 7 years old, before the economic crisis before the economic crisis hit us very hard in my family, we were maybe even upper middle class. But after that, we lost a lot of our money, and we fell right into the lower middle class. Not quite working class, but pretty fucking low. And I grew up with all these kids, and that is my class. Those are my people. And those are the people who I think are the most disadvantaged in society and who need help. And those people don't want immigrants. Those people, if you ask them about gays, the most progressive opinion you'll get from them is, well, I don't care what fags do in their own bedrooms. They can stick each other's dicks in their asses for all I want. We have freedom in this country. They can absolutely do that. And if you find that statement horrible because of the F word or because of the statement itself, then you don't represent the working class. And I think you're a fucking disgrace to the left-wing movement, right? These are the people you should be representing, and you completely thrown them under the bus because you're some middle-class bourgeois elitist who wants to speak about LGBTQ rights and trans bathrooms, as if these are the real issues in society, as if when we're approaching unemployment rates of 5 to 10% in a lot of countries, the thing we should go, even 20% in some countries, 25, 30. And when we're looking at declining wages for workers, the biggest fucking issues we need to talk about is who sticks his dick into whose asshole and what fucking bathroom some person who wants to wear a fucking dress because they have a female brain in a man's body. What bathroom they should be allowed to go in. I mean, are you fucking serious? Are you fucking kidding me? I can't stand this shit, right? I can't fucking stand this shit, and I really need to talk about this. I miss the old left. I miss the old left. I miss the communists who'd gone to the streets and they'd organize and they'd actually talk to you about workers' rights. Because as it stands right now, the modern left does not want to talk about workers' rights. The right, the only time the right talks about workers' rights is when they're dealing with the immigration issue because it fucking suits them. Because that's when they can come out to you and tell you that, look, immigration hurts the most socially and economically disadvantaged in our society, which it does. That's a real fact, and that's the only time they'll talk to you about social issues. And that's why I've often found myself agreeing actually more with the communists and people of the hard right, people who are sort of national populists in a way, the sort of the right-wing populist parties. Because those are the parties that actually still bring out the grievances of the working class. Those are the parties that have adopted those grievances. And those are the parties people are voting for. The Rust Belt voted Trump in 2016. Now, we don't know if they'll do the same in 2020. My prediction is they will, but maybe in a reduced amount. But regardless, they voted Trump because they saw there a prospect for jobs. Because this rhetoric that yes, immigrants are closing our jobs, and these filthy multinational companies are outsourcing and they're going to other countries, and we need to implement tariffs against them to bring American manufacturing back. All of that rhetoric, it resonated with the working class. And you can dispute the economic benefits of that rhetoric or whatever else. I don't want to get into that discussion because frankly, I think that he is right on those issues, and you're not going to convince me that he's wrong on those issues. But regardless, he said those things. The working class recognized that those things were actually working for them, and they went to Trump. And instead of talking about the working class, and specifically in America, the white working class, which is almost just as disadvantaged as the black working class, we instead like to talk about, the white privilege and the privilege of whites. What fucking privilege does some poor trailer park family, white family in the Appalachian Mountains, who drink Mountain Dew all day and their fucking teeth are falling out because of the high sugar contents of those drinks, and they're fucking fat as fuck, they can barely sit around. And I'm not saying this to mock them, I'm saying this to highlight their terrible situation. What privilege does that family have? Oh, they won't get shot, they're less likely to get shot by a cop? Wow, what fucking privilege. Wow, this solved their issues completely. And yet the left doesn't want to touch that. The left doesn't want to deal with that. And you know what? If the left doesn't want to deal with these people that I grew up in, these people that genuinely need help in society, these people that I saw with my own fucking eyes that they couldn't do things, I saw their houses, I saw how they lived, I saw what they were deprived of. If the left doesn't want to deal with these people and wants to instead call them racists and homophobes and whatever fucking progressive hip label is trendy in this year, then fuck the left, honestly. Fuck the left.